Alright, everybody, it's been a long day. The sun's going down, and have I got a treat for you that's perfect for when the sun goes down. So in 1949, Walt Disney approached Bing Crosby about doing an animated feature for the Walt Disney Company. And long story short, they created an animated feature called The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, where half of the movie was the story of The Wind in the Willows, and the other half was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Bing Crosby ended up voicing and narrating The Legend of Sleepy Hollow part of the film. Now, that was 1949. There were hardly any televisions even out there, and there was no home video, of course. So, fast forward 40 years later, well, maybe 30, 50, 60, 70, 80, yeah. Fast forward 30, 40 years later, home video is born, and the Walt Disney Company starts issuing all their movies on home videotape. Well, they kind of messed this one up. They did not put the film as a whole on home videotape. They separated both parts of it and released them as two different tapes. Now, I own both videotapes on Betamax, but as I've told you before, I have no Betamax to play them on. So, I had to scour the internet, and I found a copy that I can show you of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. As you all know, I'm a huge Bing Crosby fan. I love Bing Crosby. I subscribe to Sirius XM Radio just so I can listen to the Crosby's Corner show on their 40s Junction channel every Saturday. Anyways, I'm really excited I'm able to share this with you guys. I know the quality is not that great, but like I've said, we pride ourselves here at the Michael Cochin channel on unprofessionalism. So, it's not professional. It looks more like a VHS tape. They probably pulled it off the VHS copy of the same tape I own on Betamax. So that's good. So let's get into it. This is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow from 1949. A separate version, because obviously the film has been trimmed. There's a new beginning tagged onto it, as well as a new ending for these video releases. Because, of course, when you watch the movie, you're not going to see the introduction that you're going to see here. It's going to be an Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad intro. So, this is a special, rarely seen version of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow portion of the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad film. Did I get all that right? So let's get into this. I love y'all. Boom, 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 boom.
Old Icky, if you recall, was the country schoolmaster, dreamed up by Washington Irving. Oh, he had a way with a yarn, did Mr. Irving. If we could but journey back to that remote period in American history when the city of Manhattan was but a market town, we would discover in the bosom of one of those spacious coves which indent the shores of the Hudson, the little village of Tarrytown. And just beyond, nestled deep in the low, rolling hills, a sequestered glen. It's a quiet, peaceful place, and yet somehow foreboding. for it abounds in haunted spots, twilight tales, and local superstitions. The best-known story, however, concerns a certain itinerant schoolmaster who once frequented these parts. Indeed, some say his melancholy spirit still haunts the vicinity. The worthy pedagogue was described as a most unusual man. To see him striding along, one might well mistake him for some scarecrow eloped from a cornfield. He was tall, but exceedingly lank. His head was small and flat on top with a long snipe nose, so that it looked like a weathercock perched upon his spindle neck. Altogether, he was such an apparition as is seldom to be seen in broad daylight. It was late one drowsy autumn afternoon when this strange figure first approached the tranquil little village of Sleepy Hollow. As usual, there had forgathered at ye old Schnooker and Schnapshappy a group of rustic lads known as the Sleepy Hollow Boys. Their self-appointed leader, one Brom Bones, was a burly, roistering blade, always ready for a fight or a frolic. And though Brom was much given to madcap pranks and practical jokes, still there was no malice in his mischief. Indeed, with his waggish humor and prodigious strength, Brom Bones was quite the hero of all the country round. Odds bodkins, gadzooks. Look at that old spook of spooks.
Who's that coming down the street?
Are they shovels or are they feet?
Lean and lanky,
Skin and bone, with clothes a scarecrow would hate to own. Yet he has a certain air.
Debonair and devil may care. It's the new schoolmaster. What's his name?
Ichabod, Ichabod Crane.
Ichabod, what a name.
Kind of odd,
But nice just the same.
Funny pen, funny frame. Ichabod,
Ichabod Crane. Ichabod may be quaint, may be odd, and maybe he ain't. Anyway, there's no complaint from Ichabod, Ichabod Crane. And though the arrival of the pedagogue gave rise to mixed emotions, the townspeople all agreed they'd never seen anyone like Ichabod, Ichabod Crane. The schoolroom became Ichabod's empire, over which with lordly dignity he held absolute sway. Truth to say, Ichabod was a conscientious man, who never bore in mind the golden maxim, spare the rod and spoil the child. Still, he was careful to administer justice with discrimination, for it behooved him to keep on good terms with his pupils, especially if their mothers happened to be good cooks. Who's the town's latest man?
Gets around like nobody can.
Has to be none other than Ichabod, Ichabod Crane. Thus, as time went by, it may be seen that the pedagogue got on tolerably enough. Moreover, Ichabod found divers ways to increase his slender income, and at the same time, awaken the cultural interests of the sleepy little village. Bum 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 boo 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 boo. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 boo boo boo. Bum 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 boo. Bum 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 boo. Bum 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 bum. Me, 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 me. It was inevitable that such a man as Ichabod would become an object of ridicule to Brom Bones and his gang. And yet to Ichabod, these were small matters. Indeed, the schoolmaster possessed a remarkable equanimity which remained quite undisturbed until that fateful day when his path was crossed by a woman. A certain woman. Katrina Van Tassel, daughter and only child of old Baltus Van Tassel, the richest farmer in the county. She was a blooming lass, plump as a partridge, ripe, melting, and rosy-cheeked. Once you have met that little coquette, Katrina, you won't forget Katrina. But nobody yet has ever upset Katrina. That cute coquette Katrina. You can do more with Margaret or Helena. Or Anne or Angelina. But Katrina will kiss and run till her romance is fun, with always another one to start. And yet when you met that little coquette Katrina, you've lost your heart. Now there was no doubt the fair Katrina was the richest prize in the countryside. And the schoolmaster, being an ambitious man, at once began to fill his mind with many sugared thoughts and hopeful suppositions. Ah, Katrina, my love, who can resist your grace, your charm, and who can resist your father's farm? Boy, what a setup. There's gold in them acres, and that ain't hay. Not to mention that lovely green stuff. Oh, Katrina, my sweet, my treasure. Treasure. That barn's a gold mine. How I'd love to hit the jackpot. Dear Katrina, Papa's only child. Papa. Well, the old goat can't take it with him, and when he cuts out, that's where I cut in. Sweet Katrina, poor little rich girl. But don't worry, Katie, Ichabod will protect you. Ah, yes, Katrina, you've won me. I surrender.
And yet when you've met that little coquette Katrina, you've lost your heart.
Truth to say, every portal to Katrina's heart was jealously guarded by a host of rustic admirers. But Ichabod was confident he'd soon ride roughshod over these simple country bumpkins. The most formidable obstacle of all, however, the schoolmaster had failed to reckon with. That was the redoubtable Brom Bones himself. Now, the ease with which Brom cleared the field of rivals both piqued and provoked the fair Katrina. And she often wished that some champion would appear and for once take the field openly against the boisterous Brom. Though a wiser man would have shrunk from the competition, love, they say, is blind, and Ichabod was aware only that Dame Fortune was at last thundering at his door. It's true that Brom liked to joke as well as the next, but enough was too much. Time to carry the issue to open warfare. Why, he'd double that schoolmaster up and lay him on a shelf in his own schoolhouse. But this, it seemed, was easier said than done. No doubt of it, this was Ichabod's lucky day. Now, it was evident the schoolmaster was indeed a man of hidden talents, and a rival to be reckoned with. Still, wars are neither won nor lost with the first encounter. The high-flying pedagogue might yet be brought to earth. For Brom Bones was never a man to cry quits. It was upon the occasion of her father's annual Halloween frolic that Katrina again chose to stir the embers of the smoldering rivalry. Thus, one invitation in particular carried a most personal and provocative summons. The worthy schoolmaster was in a transport of joy. To him, this could mean but one thing. Ah, Icky, you sly old dog, you. What is this strange power you have over women? Well, tonight's the night, boy. Just turn on the old charm, and the fair Katrina is yours for the asking. Boom, 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 boom. So gaily bedecked, nobly mounted upon a horse he had borrowed for the occasion, Ichabod issued forth like a knight-errant of old to keep a tryst with his lady fair. In all the countryside, there was nothing to equal a merrymaking at Mynheer Van Tassel's farm. To Ichabod, here was a perfect field for his endeavors. Now, indeed, would he put his best foot forward. For beyond all his other talents, the schoolmaster prided himself upon his dancing. The unhappy Brom, already bested at every turn, saw himself once more outmatched. For as he watched the posturing pedagogue, he was forced to admit that here was a flawless picture of ease and grace. There was no doubt that Ichabod was the man of the hour. Brom knew that he must concede his rival still another victory. And yet there was still a chance his time would come. For when the hour grew late, Van Tassel always called upon his guests to tell him ghostly tales of Halloween. And Brom knew there was no more firm and potent believer in spooks and goblins than Ichabod Crane.
Just gather round and I'll elucidate on what goes on outside when it gets late.
Long about midnight, the ghosts and banshees, they get together for their nightly jamboree. There's things with horns and saucer eyes, some with fangs about this size.
Some are fat and some are thin.
And some don't even wear their skin.
Oh, I'm telling you, brother, it's a frightful sight to see what goes on Halloween night. When spooks have a midnight jamboree, they break it up with fiendish glee. Ghosts are bad, but the one that's cursed is the headless horseman. He's the worst.
That's right, he's mine on Halloween night.
But when he goes a-jogging across the land, holding his noggin in his hand, demons take one look and groan, and they hit the road for parts unknown.
Beware, take care, he rides alone.
And there's no spook like Spooked Spur.
They don't like him and he's really burned.
He swears to the longest day he's dead,
He'll show them that he can get ahead.
They say he's tired of his flaming top. He's got a yen to make a swap. So he rides one night each year to find a head in the hollow here.
Now he likes them little, he likes them big.
Or in the middle or awake. Black or white or even red.
The headless horseman needs a head with a hip, hip, and a clippity clap. He's out looking for a top chop, so don't stop to figure out a plan. You can't reason with a headless man. Now, if you doubt this tale is so, I met that spook just a year ago. Now, I didn't stop for a second look, but made for the bridge that spans the brook. But once you cross that bridge, my friend,
The ghost is through his power ends.
so when you're riding home tonight, make for the bridge with all your might. He'll be down in the hollow there. He needs your head. Look out! Beware!
With a hip, hip, and a clippity clop. He's out looking for a head to swap. So don't try to figure out a plan. You can't reason with a headless man.
It was the very witching hour of night that Ichabod pursued his travel homeward. The sky grew darker and darker as one by one the stars winked out their lights, and driving clouds obscured the moon from sight. Never had the schoolmaster felt so melancholy, so utterly alone. And the nearer he approached the hollow, the more dismal he became. Once inside the murky glen, Ichabod's anxiety increased 100-fold. For now, the forest seemed to close in behind him. Every small detail of Brahm's awful story returned to haunt his recollection. Once you cross that bridge, my friends, the ghost is through. His power ends. Next morning, Ichabod's hat was found. And close beside it, a shattered pumpkin. But there was no trace of the schoolmaster. It was shortly thereafter that Brown Bones led the fair Katrina to the altar. Now, rumors persisted that Ichabod was still alive, married to a wealthy widow in a distant county. But of course, the good Dutch settlers refused to believe such nonsense, for they knew the schoolmaster had been spirited away by the headless horseman.
With a hip, hip, and a clippity-clop, He's out looking for a head to swap, so don't try to figure out a plan. You can't reason with a headless man.
Man, I'm getting out of here.
All right, you guys. That was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I hope you enjoyed that. I don't have much more to say on the show, except for the fact that you can see it on Disney Plus. You can see the actual movie on Disney Plus, The Adventures of Ichabod Mr. Toad. I couldn't share the movie with you here due to copyright reasons, as well as I don't have a source. In the future, I may end up being able to do things like that, but for right now, I'm very limited on my sources. So I'll just say maybe in the future, I'll show you the whole movie. So I hope y'all enjoyed watching that. Y'all have a great night, and I'll see you later.